wanting to organize everybody around you and your circumstances.
Yeah, my farm, the orchard, my daughters, and um, and their birds, the mould, because we've had so much rain that continues. Our chai, and money. If I stop anything, I feel like it's all just. I feel like I felt today when I was driving to town because I wanted to do this meeting. I could feel the nervousness of if I actually stop. Um, I'm just scared what will happen to the property or the care of it all. But it's really strong feeling. It's like I can really feel trying to hang on to this managing spot to get it all sorted.
So you haven't yet discovered that managing will take care of itself if you let go of the tiller.
I'm so scared of doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I've just been cleaning today, for the last few days. There's so much mould in the house because of, the past cyclone, and then I went away and every part of the ceiling was just full of it. If I don't actually, which is it's getting cleaned up now, or the orchard, like maintaining it, it's like if I don't do it, no one's going to do it, and I can't. Yeah, it's this chaos again. That like I told you with the two in
Yeah.
the tent.
Yep.
It,
Yeah.
and I noticed when I talked to I talked to them, it's like they can't. We tried to discuss it. They're happy in chaos. I can, like, oh, it's not disturbing them. It's not disturbing them like leeches. Um, the leeches are so strong outside. It just doesn't seem to. So I'm not worrying about them anymore. They're doing what they're doing, but I'm feeling for myself, if I don't take some sort of initiative with it, I thought like discussion, it just is going to get more chaotic. And maybe it just feels like, it feels like what I always saw with Chai. He was managing everything so much. And now I'm seeing it all in myself. It's all coming out.
Mm.
And it's Chai, Chai will come and help with the gardening. But it's like I'm having to look at why even that relationship, it just seems like to be authentic, I can't. There's too many transactions for other reasons.
Mm.
Because there's a payoff with Chai, there's a which I can't do really now. I see that but to become totally honest with him, it's it's another thing. I'll just have to do it and see what happens.
Mm. Um, I'm looking for a way in to to help you, to lead you into a discovery that's not going to be through the mind. It's not going to be through words. The discovery is going to be about how things actually happen, why things actually happen. And even when we say the words actually happen, it gives us the impression that there is something doing something. But things happen because all of the circumstances that are necessary for that happening are present and lined up in the right way. And what you can bring, what I can bring to that set of circumstances is only 2 or 3 bits out of hundreds that are required for things to happen. So when I'm saying to you that you don't need to manipulate circumstances for things to happen, I'm not saying don't do. I'm not saying inhibit doing. What I'm saying is watch what things, how things unfold. See, the mind, your thoughts will tell you, if I don't do this, things will become chaotic. That's just a story that your mind is playing out. That's like you've left the television on in the background while you're doing something else. And on the television, there's a soap opera playing. But you're not paying any attention to it. You're just over the other side of the room washing dishes or doing something else. And that stuff's playing in the background. Well, if you treat your mind in the same way, you'll see that things still happen. Now, it's not to say that they happen entirely without your mind will bring to it one of the conditions. And that might be an idea that you want something done. But that's as far as the mind needs to go. After that idea appears, like clean mold, do gardening, right? You can then put aside the mind completely, and those things will either happen or not happen. They most likely will happen depending on the intensity of the feeling in your body, not what your mind says. The mind can only echo what that feeling is. So if we use neuroscience, we recognize that things that involve us get sorted by two things. One of them is all of the conditions that come in through your senses in the present, and the second thing is memory, history, what you've learned from these situations in the past. And so those two things together are what's involved in something happening. Now it's easy when, so you don't even need to know about that history because your brain looks after that. It may not even announce to you what it's taking into account when it makes these decisions, but your brain will make the decision. And so it knows that somebody being of a certain personality or a certain character, that you might need to push a little harder to get them to help you in the garden, or somebody else might be that you simply need to mention it and they'll be onto it like a shot. You know, it depends. History will tell you that, right? But all of these other conditions, like it has to be the right weather, for example. You're not going to go out and do the gardening if it's raining, most likely. You might, but most likely you won't. If it's night time, you probably won't, you know. So all these other conditions have to be present and lined up too for it to happen.
And
Now I can't hear you. Just stop and give it a second and start again.
oh, you'll hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I am seeing it actually. I'm seeing that like I was about the garden. It was the first day today where he actually rang and asked me if he could come over instead of the other way round to garden. And so, and I hadn't even organised it. So it's happening. I feel like this play, what you've mentioned, the play, the TV show of the chaos, has only like it's just coming out again. It's really, really um, getting something to drop.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, getting something to drop implies that you're going to have to do it, aren't you? You're going to manipulate things to make that happen, right? So recognize that it's not the melodrama, the chaos of what's going on around you, where your attention can be for best value. Your attention is in what do you feel about that stuff. And if you're feeling a certain way and it's unpleasant, then that's offering you an opportunity to investigate what's been triggered in you. If you're feeling okay about it, there's
I
probably
think
no
I
need to
know.
do anything. Yeah.
I think I know that, and I think I've been trying to get any way possible to avoid doing that. So I think I know what to do, really.
Yep. So recognizing how you feel about it gives you the clues as to where the resistance comes from, what it is, why is the avoidance active? That's something in you that says, I don't want to go there. I can't, I don't, it makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't want to feel uncomfortable. Something about that. Something says there's some belief that says, although I know it, I still feel like I have to be in charge. And even if you can recognize that that's a bullshit story, it still feels like it's important that you stay in charge in order to get things done. See, that's something that's triggered in you that's got nothing to do with now. It comes from the past. It comes from somewhere else in your memory that said, if you don't do this, you're not a good girl, or some variation of that. And it's only by recognizing the opportunity that this stuff presents itself to you that you get a chance to see that what is actually in play. So it's interesting, isn't it, that you have this conflicting situation where you can see what I'm saying, yet part of you can't allow it to happen or doesn't want it to happen. Yeah.
Why? Because the mind says if you do what you think you need to do, you'll be homeless.
Well, that's just the mind playing the melodrama, right?
I
But
don't know. It could be
but that is also, here's a really interesting one. Although the mind is giving you reasons to do that, I mean, what it's really going on is the mind is trying to distract you from feeling uncomfortable. So even though it's offering you an unpleasant scenario, that's easier to cope with than the unpleasant nature of whatever gets is been triggered by this situation. So it's a distraction. The mind, the totality of the mind is it's a distraction at this stage. Now that doesn't mean don't do it because you can't control your thoughts. That doesn't mean dismiss your thoughts. What it means is recognize that it exists, see it as an opportunity, and then go into your body. Go into your body and see what it is that you're feeling. And it's where is it? What does it feel like? Is it changing? All of those things get really, really intimate with the sensations that are there. And if you don't feel sensations, just think of that chaos again. Just let the mind run a little bit and imagine yourself homeless. Imagine yourself nothing's worked. Imagine your house totally full of mold. Imagine it overrun by bird shit, all of that kind of stuff. And you'll feel the discomfort again. And then go in and have a look at that discomfort. Where is it? What does it feel like? You know exactly how to get the discomfort going. In that way, we're going to use the mind to do that. But it's not about what the mind says. It's not about the content of that, apart from that, using that to stimulate this discomfort. What it's about is your relationship with that stuff. Where did you first learn that you had to be in control of things for them to happen?
that, what you just said, your relationship to it. I think this has come up too stronger because I've really analysed, not analysed, I just had to look at my relationship, not with humans, but with food. And that was really, and bot really helped me through that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really got present with it. And it seems, and then I was asking then how, what I was doing with the food. Um, yeah, it just showed me that relationship to the food. And then it really was starting to show me where I'd put the context of relationships, relating with others authentically. It's like the food has actually been has been higher, which sounds really crazy. It was the one thing that gave me um, a form of control and comfort and a hit, an addiction.
Mm,
It, but it was really, really tricky how it was doing it. And just
okay.
going through in presence, it showed me, like really presently eating, really showed me what it was doing before. It seems like that's shifted actually. That's just been in the last couple of days.
That's a big
The
one.
hit,
And yeah.
yeah.
So when you were a kid, was it a big deal about how you ate? How much did you have to clean your plate off? Did you have to have manners, be polite? Were there a lot of rules around eating?
All that. And I remember compulsively eating an ice container of ice cream when my father was researching up in Wyndham. We didn't probably rarely got ice cream, but I remember how it was when I was about 8. I was like, it was really, that was the only thing that was giving me solace was the ice
Yeah.
cream. As well as my mother had all the the old English ways of cleaning a silver and believing in correct manners, and the my whole family structure did. All the family conditioning, yes, was about being polite, which I haven't been lately as well. I've also found I've had a couple of outbursts where I would never have done that in the past, not with actually immediate family either. But it felt actually when I did it, the anger came so instant, and I did it, and then it was real. It was true. In that moment, I wasn't pretending or pretending person pleasing, and it felt nothing afterwards. I had no remorse or guilt
no
or
guilt.
anything.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
I felt actually really good. That was in the last couple of days too. That was like just spontaneous, came out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, this one. And it started with that whole mold thing, with the bed sheet last week, which has set up more awareness from them and myself. Yeah, so the little girls.
That's the place to visit. Every time you feel the need to be in control, just in your mind, go back to scoffing down that tub of ice cream and what you were feeling as you were doing it. Like it was saying, it sounds to me, it may not be right, but it sounds to me like you were saying, fuck you to everybody and all the rules when you were woofing into that ice cream.
I think I was also having a relationship with it more than all those others outside. That either, worked very hard, were very consumed with their research, or very consumed with social life. With all the other
Yep. And
others, all the other grown-ups.
yeah. I mean, you weren't a person.
No, I
For
was,
that, to them, you weren't. Yeah.
no, until I had to, my thing was that, they were just watching how I was going to achieve. And they didn't mean any, it's the same with what I did with my daughter. But we
Yep.
weren't seen just for ourselves. We were seen for what we could perform.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But this,
So, would you say then? So, here's a really interesting one. Would you say that underneath all of this chaos and all of this stuff is that a yearning desire to be accepted for who you are at a really fundamental level?
definitely.
So, with all of this current control issue, getting things done and having to organise it and manipulate so on and so on, is that because they're not treating you respectfully or some version of that?
Yes.
You can't just say, I, I don't like mold and it will change, or the garden needs work and it will happen. You can't just say that. You've got to actually organise it and manipulate people in order for it to happen. Except that Chai,
Yeah,
of
I can't be
course,
direct.
yeah,
I can't be
yeah.
direct. It's not heard. We did talk about the mould. That was with the one side, the daughter and partner. But I saw they're really okay with it. It's like they could live out in the wilderness. They're really quite raw like that. And with the gardening, that was with chai, was I have found it's what we've talked about a long time ago with the sex sense, is that that is the underlying part, that from the beginning of the relationship, it's like I'm still dealing with the past. Like Chai still hasn't changed. He's just the same as he always was. He says he's accepted what I've said about it in a way, but I see the resentment come out.
So again, it feels like you're not
It's like it's
being
a merry-go-round.
noticed. Mm.
Yes, just to be without having to actually be anything. That's what it is.
Mm.
It's like
So it's not really about getting jobs done. It's not really about the mold or the garden. It is about you being heard.
yes,
I mean, heard in a way, not just the words, not just the sound, but you being respected, you being acknowledged, and your views being validated, even though they're different from. So they don't have to agree with you. The girls don't have to agree with you about the importance of these things, but you do want them to understand how you feel about it. Now, then it gets a little bit tricky, and is how you feel about it. Is that going to, is that, does that have to be acted on? So if they hear you and they acknowledge that they hear you, but then they still, because their own values are different, they still don't do anything about it. How does that feel for you? Is it possible that you can feel heard and acknowledged, and yet at the same time they still don't act on it? Or do we have to have them act on it in order to prove that they really did hear you?
it's not about now proving. I feel like it's more like I feel if I don't get help, like there's three of us on the property, at least with Chai, we're a balance. We help each other on the property. I feel like I'm running it now, and there isn't any. Short Chai will come occasionally, but it's myself, and the girls don't seem to. They're with the ones either working all the time and rush off to work, and the other one's consumed with literally the birds. The care of the birds
So you're looking after the place for the three of you, even though you're the only one doing any work on it.
and the birds half the time.
Mm.
So it's really like I've got 5 birds, 2 big ones and 3 little ones. Like the. And I think I'm having to come to look at this and to be real about it. Beyond, like, as much as I love them, I feel like maybe I actually have to really look at that whole thing of that it mightn't change as much as we, it could just be like that. I suppose in a way it's just reminding me of the father of my daughter. It was the same situation. And when I tried to talk to her today, I saw the whole look in her eye, and I so I closed my eyes. So that's why I suppose it's feeling quite scary, because it might be we can't really do it. And the same with China. I might have to actually see that I've set all these characters up and it's all just coming to a dismal nothing.
So, what would you do if they weren't in your life at all anymore? If the girls left and you never saw Chai again, what would you do?
I
Would you
think I'd
stay
be
there
probably
and you would feel like you had control again?
yes. Um, I'd feel like I wouldn't have to be pushing and pulling, and more than anything,
Hmm. So,
and of
so,
course, yeah, it's the control. It's the control as well, of course,
hmm,
because I feel like my daughter is also trying in her own way. Um, and she came from when she had a breakdown. She's come from Melbourne. She's come here. And I can see that she is trying, and she's got a lot of steps too. I don't know if she'll ever get it or if she's lost it. I'm not sure. Um,
hmm. So
so,
if rather than have them out of your life, if you simply accepted them as they are, as they appear to you to be, and that is unhelpful, right? You just accept that situation, and Chai's not there a lot of the time, most of the time, in fact. So it would be almost exactly as it would be if they had left and gone away. You're just there doing your own thing.
mm, true.
What's the difference if they'd left and you were doing your own thing, or if they're there and you're doing your own thing? What's the difference? Except that the mind says, "Well, you're here, you should be helping."
No, not only that. Actually, I'm not sure. You've made me feel a bit confused there. I've got nothing to say.
Mm, that's good. That's
It makes
something to
me feel,
contemplate. Yeah.
yes. And that's what I did with I tried to talk to my daughter this morning, and then her logic. We were talking about leeches, and I was recommending different ways of dealing with it because that it just seemed to get chaotic, and um, and then I realised she was getting defensive, and I thought I was only trying to help, but I realised then this is when I just shut up
Mm.
and I just stayed silent.
So did you see your part in her getting defensive?
Yeah,
Yeah. Now
she doesn't
whether
want to be
it's
told what to do,
yeah. So it wasn't
and
about how you actually were, but it was about what you were presenting and how she interpreted that she needed to be defensive because she felt criticized or attacked or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
that I didn't have the trust that she could work it out eventually. Yeah.
And that was probably pretty true, eh? You didn't have the trust that she could work it out. You wanted to tell her how to work it out.
Yeah, automatic. I suppose it was just automatic things,
Yeah.
and
And you
that's
could
what I
say,
did.
oh, well, it's a mother's job to do that, you could adopt a role, and so on.
Yeah,
But regardless, there was that in you that wanted to fix the situation. We're back to
yeah,
control again.
yes, 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 yes. And that's when I got it. When she said something and got defensive, and I realized here I go again, trying to resolve it, fix it. That's when I went quiet.
Mm,
And after a while, she said, "Oh, you got it." She wanted to talk more about it or something, and I said, "Oh," and I felt okay. I just felt silent, and then it left us, and we got onto something else. So it's more me again.
yeah. And you saw it. How wonderful is that?
Yeah, that was good actually.
Yeah, you're certainly developing the ability to be
Oh,
outside of these things and notice what's going on. That's great.
and that's why it's great that I can, that's why I'm making an effort to turn up here every week, because I need the tools, not just for them, but for myself, and it's going to help us all. But I really need the, or just allowing the
Yeah,
expression.
yeah. Frequently, we just need a reminder because the old habits tend to kind of cover up the newly learned stuff, and we forget about it. And being reminded is all it takes to bring it back to the fore, and away we go again.
Yeah, and I have done, that chatbot. I do. It's helped a lot. Continues to help.
Mm. It always, I guess, it seems to be always reminding you of a perspective.
Well, it keeps on taking, especially like with the food thing. That was really good. That was just sort of quite amazing. And I was able to share that with my daughter when we ate dinner last night, because she's open to hearing, but not
Mm.
too much. It was more like it just gave me actually, I was able to take my time and to smell the food and to allow
Beautiful,
the taste,
beautiful, yes.
allow to be in the taste. But then once the taste is gone, it was finished. It wasn't something I was desiring afterwards.
Mm.
Good.
Yeah, much more
But
fulfilling.
practical, isn't it? It's putting that practicality of everything now.
Yep.
Instead of before, it was just thinking that I wanted the food, desiring that type of food. But before I knew it, it was gone, so it wasn't satisfied.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know that one.
yeah. Funny, yeah, with the ice cream story, you've got one too as a kid.
Mm.
Ice cream.
Yeah. I've got food
But
stories too. Yeah.
pardon?
I've got food stories as well.
Right. Yeah. It's that relationship. That's what I
Mm.
saw. I couldn't get over. Like it was really, the bot really helped me look at that relationship
Yep.
and how high it was in my in the in the being of,
Yep.
yeah.
So even when you talk about the relationship with your daughter, where the juice is for you isn't in the relationship with your daughter, although that there is definitely something there. That's good value, but there is in your relationship to your ideas about your relationship with your daughter. Is that too convoluted?
Yeah, I feel like that again, the chatbot is helping in that way. I feel like yeah, the control and the codependency was definitely, a thread with my daughter and myself. Um, but yeah, we definitely uh well, I feel like she's more on the defensive, you know, either trying to please me or on the defensive. But
Mm.
occasionally, like last night, I chose just to, I don't know, because I wasn't worried about jobs last night. We were just eating dinner. Because I think that's been my problem, is I've just been managing um, so strongly uh, that, yeah, we weren't having any other type of relationship. It was more about that. And she's very much, yeah, I've been putting my stuff on her all the time about that. My idea.
Mm. Do you feel that you adopt a role with her? Do you feel that you've got a mother role really active, or a
Um, I think in the past it was more we had a I feel like I'm leaving. It was like that special friendship role nearly,
hmm
and now it's got a little bit more. And maybe, yeah, I overlooked things or maybe expected or thought eventually she'd get that. But now I'm actually looking at myself and seeing how Grace is too. It's sort of maybe without the rose tinted glasses and having to come to accept this is how it is.
at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment.
Mm.
Because, she's also trying to get her independent and living on my property.
Oh, well, that's really complicated, isn't it, when you think about it? She's also got that relationship with her partner where that's probably still in flux, still working
Exactly.
that out. Yeah.
Well,
And
I
then,
feel like, remember the power thing we had being the partner? I feel we had the power dynamics between myself and the partner. Yeah, and I think,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So she's
I,
even relating to that. She's caught in the middle a bit there as well.
yeah, we're okay. Well, I feel I'm okay now with the partner. It's fine. I sent that email um, to her that we talked about, and it feels a lot better, even though she avoided me until probably last night. But that was okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
always in
yeah,
flux, isn't it? This stuff.
yeah, it's always in flux.
Yeah. Again, the mind wants to do a screenshot of a situation and believe that it's that way all the time, when of course it never is. It's only there for a millisecond, and then it's different. So we do tend to say, well, they are like that, as if they're always
Mm,
like that. But of course,
mm.
nobody's ever always anything. Yeah, I find I've been having this thing a bit lately that's rather interesting about how we see ourselves and how we see others, and the correlation between those two. Like we don't know ourselves any more than we know somebody else. And
Yeah,
that's not much
yeah.
either. So that's rather interesting. And yet
And
we've
it seems, do you find, well, this is what I like, these are the closest in a way to me, my daughter and Jai, but I, it seems like so far it's like it's coming back to me really strongly. What I did see in Chai, like the manager is the latest one, was really one of the things that disturbed me about him. Uh, you know, it, it,
yeah.
it's like the other is me. The other is me. And I'm fighting with me at like, or just accepting, allowing me.
Mm.
Because the mind comes in and puts all these ideas in, if you don't. be aware about this, you're going to lose it, the play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it comes up with all those stories.
Yeah,
But of course, even at a logical level, it's quite easy to see that we
thought.
can only imagine something because it's been part of our experience. You know, we can't ever, you know, I used to think about this years and years and years ago about how does somebody come up with an original song, you know, with original lyrics, or original music? Well, they can't. You know, everything is always relative to other things, and it's the same thing. I can't imagine what goes on in somebody else unless I've experienced it myself. And so everybody is in that my bubble of reality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, that's what I got a bit today, what you just said. I realised after quite a bit of talking with Ray how different their thoughts are, where they're coming from. So different than where I was coming from. But I always was coming from my reference point, and that's why she always would never be good enough.
So it's almost like you're faced with, in order for me to actually understand where they're coming from, even though it may not be my current perspective, I must have once experienced that in order to understand it. Or the alternative is I simply don't understand it. I can't understand it. If it's not been part of my experience, I can't understand it. Like, well, you know, 'cause to say I can't understand it, of course, is not right. We have to look at that a little bit. I can't know the truth of it, or I can't know how accurate it is. I can only imagine something, and that something that I imagine is going to be part of my experience, a version of my experience. So they're different. They have different views to your current views. But if you understand where they're coming from, you must have once had views like they've got, even if only for a moment. If you've never had those views, all you can know is that they're different. You can't know what they are. And that changes the way you relate to them.
Yeah, I'm hearing that does change the way. And it's just the old way, however I respond of catching out the you know, the resolver, or like I did today. So in a way, it's really good Grace being there, because it's really coming to me. I think we need relationships for this too.
Oh, that's what triggers things, isn't it? That's where the wonderful opportunities are, for sure. Yeah.
Mm, I've had a lot of heart as I've been talking to you. I've just been feeling the heart really going strongly, and the throat and the jaw, and um,
In what way? What's the flavour of it?
um, well, the heart's just been nearly racing in like, maybe it's settling down now, but it was like an anxiety.
Hmm.
like the anxiety that would always bug me about shy. I always felt much more, you talk about in control.
Now that's what I was pointing to before. So
Yes.
if we poke the bear, the value there now is for you to look at how you feel about those things, not about what they are. Don't get lost in whatever's been poked, but rather just what is your relationship to those things? How do you feel about them? Now, ideally, they're an opportunity, and we can feel good about that, even though what it is uncomfortable.
Can you expand on that a little bit more, Vince? What, like,
Well, if we come at it from the other angle, so this is my story is that this how you started the meeting today with acknowledging that you've been feeling pretty stressed. Would that be the right word? Right. And then what I'm saying is that the stress is not about the situation you're in, what it looks like is causing the stress. That's just on the outside. What's really going on is whatever that triggered takes you to that feeling of it being uncomfortable, that discomfort, and and then a whole lot of your responses to that are avoidance responses. So they're a way of you getting away from that discomfort, whether you're thinking about it, right, which is the most common one. And so part of that thinking about it, if you're trying to get away from it, is to say, well, it's because of the situation. It's because those girls don't have my values about mould, because they don't care about the leeches, right, etc. Because I can't get them to help me in the garden. That's what the mind says is the reason for your discomfort, but it's not. The reason for your discomfort is what's in you, and what's in you is
so
that.
explain that to me.
Go on, you broke up.
Mm, mm, mm,
No, you're breaking up
mm.
severely.
Oh, where are you?
Yep, yeah, that's back. You're back. Yep,
You there, Vince?
yep,
Oh, you know how my phone goes off? What
yeah,
what you said, I don't know why that happened like that, but anyway, what you said was, so all of this has been avoidance, is what you're saying, Nelly.
yes.
I've been, all of these stories has been because of avoidance.
Hmm.
And all I can do is keep on doing it then. I mean, like, not avoiding, just carrying on with life and not believing all of it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Just like, the woman that came into the house story,
Yep.
like, which made me a lot more, um, I've done a lot more security measures now and, um, got more organised in that way.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the same with these stories. Things will happen
Yeah,
about the stories, but
yeah.
that's not really what it's all about for you. That's just on the outside, on the periphery. What it's about for you is what triggered you. And what triggered you was not feeling heard.
Right. So, but if I'm not heard, oh, it's understanding that too, isn't it?
Hmm.
I wasn't heard because I couldn't hear them too. I couldn't really hear where they're coming from. I
Okay.
can now. Now I can feel
Mm.
that. I can feel that I can hear where they're coming from more,
Yep.
and that's but that had to be hammered into me, really, because I was so strong in my belief, in my reference points of what I was hearing.
Yeah.
So when I wasn't heard as a child, um, that must have been when it set up a lot of these conditions.
Right.
How I dealt with
Yeah.
life to get heard to or get what I needed more, I suppose.
Sure. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like you and the tantrum and the ice cream, like I
Yeah.
must have created ways.
Right. But
Um,
focusing on that is just another story.
right. Yeah.
What we need to do is
Besides, yeah.
recognize that there is something in us that these circumstances triggered now, and that our reaction isn't to these circumstances, but to what got triggered in us. What that does is it changes our relationship with those circumstances. They take on a much more appropriate perspective.
Yes.
So, in a way, it's not about you not being heard, it's about something that did happen, which was you recognizing where they're coming from. And the consequence of that was that they were unable to hear you. Right? So, in other words, it's not about not being heard, it's about that not mattering
Yes. Well, not mattering to me or them,
to you.
really.
To you, they're going to
Yeah.
just do what they do. You can't control
Yeah,
any of
that's
that.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, but like because things were brought up and now we've got more. I think boundaries. I don't go into their tent. Or they're going into the caravan soon, and they don't take my linen and my clothes. Like
yeah,
we've got
yeah,
we've got some
yeah,
clarity there, which probably
yeah.
needed to go there.
Right, but that
Um,
would have happened anyway. That's kind of that outside of all of this. So that's something that was just going to automatically be resolved in one way or another.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so it's me as well with the control because I've been trying to control it all,
Yes.
but I would carry on controlling it um,
And when you're locked
because
into that, you're not taking into account where they're coming from. Right?
no,
So it's like you're trying to push a boulder up the hill.
yeah.
But again, you've got to be really careful that every one of these words seems to be saying you've got to be a certain way, and it's not. They're not saying that at all. But there's no way we can use words without that being there, and all we can do is say, but that's an assumption that we've just got to be careful not to give into. And so it's not a matter of doing or not doing anything. It's really a matter of watching or not watching what happens. But if we can see it happening, it changes outcomes. It changes the way we feel. It changes everything.
Uh-huh.
just to see it.
So a little bit like what you're, from what I'm hearing, is you're saying, because this is, well, I don't want to keep on going down around and around like the mind loop. In a way, you're just saying, like, I dealt with the looking at the food and smelling it and tasting it with my tongue and being there with it. I didn't have a story about it. It was as it was. And it's more like when they're, what's happening is just
Yeah. So what you,
being there, but not, but see, the mind wants to flicker in immediately
yeah,
with
exactly.
that
You're doing it.
reaction,
Yeah.
like, and that's really, um, with each, I might have sorted like out the food thing, but then this thing, um,
Well, the food thing is exactly the same. So if you can do it, right? So what you did with the food was that you were having direct experience, right? You were
yes,
very
yes,
much with what was actually going on, the taste and the smell and the texture and those things you were appreciating. So you weren't involved in stories about the food. You were just having that sensory experience. Now, if you were to do that same thing with your daughter, or with chai or with anybody, right? What you're doing is you're hearing them talk, you're hearing the tone of their voice, you're seeing their body language, right? You're relating to what is actually happening, not to what your mind thinks might be going on.
yes. And the so that when I'm silent, like I was when I was listening to Grace when she was defending her the leech story, um, or trying to explain probably to me too. Um, by being silent, I was sort of watching it, wasn't I? Because I felt like
Absolutely,
I just
yes.
watched it and then it sort of passed. It
Mm,
all just passed.
yep. So in that
Yeah.
silence, you were probably doing what you were doing with the food, and that is you were hearing her tone of voice, you were hearing the words coming from her, you were noticing her facial expressions, her body language, and all of that kind of stuff, and she would have felt heard as a result of that. And then she would no longer need to be defensive about it.
Yeah. I think she felt a bit confused too, probably because I wasn't.
Well, you went from one thing and switched into another thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. That part. So, and it's like what I was saying last week to you. It seems like silence is going to be like the way of dealing with it all.
Silence is
I'll
amazing, yeah.
come. Yeah.
The mind doesn't like silence though, and so the mind, when you are silent, the mind will frequently get very active trying to fill that silence. So it's a case of being aware of that as well.
Yeah. That's true.
something that feels relevant to share now, or is coming up here, is how we often are focused on, what's that there is no self in terms of pointing the attention to here inward, but often are unaware of what that also means when we look at apparent others. So, when you look at somebody else and you look at them as somebody else, you're kind of also in like, you're kind of telling yourself that there is somebody here. So if there's somebody else, there's also somebody here. And every time we have an opinion that seems to be different from the opinion on the other side, we kind of are creating a self in ourselves and a self in the other. And then down the rabbit hole we go. So I think, or I find in my own experience, that as soon as I notice this happening here, a disagreement, or something that feels off or contractive, to get into the habit, or so to speak, of kind of reminding oneself that, well, if there's nobody here, there's nobody there either. And that what is creating this tension right now is just an opinion. It's just a part of our conditioning, a saved belief.
Because I sort of feel like they are, that I sort of feel or know or something that they are just aspects of myself. But then, the mind wants to make a story that there's me and there's the them. And you're saying, Marius, that it's really good, like, just to keep on reminding myself that it's just an opinion, and it doesn't really matter if I don't know if you and Vince have actually got it, that you can actually see that there is no one there. Like visually see that there's no one there, or you just know it's no one there.
Yeah, so at least I'm not going to speak for Vince, but I can see that there's apparently somebody there visually. But what can happen is that if there is anything that causes a separation, like let's say my normal state doesn't feel like self and other, but as soon as there is a disagreement, or something that kind of creates separateness between us, it suddenly feels like self and other.
Yes, I get that. And that's
so every
really
time,
that's with every issue, isn't it? Really, anything that
yes,
where it's division, like I saw that with my daughter-in-law, that the separation
really happened because I didn't think that she knew as much as me, really. And then she probably felt the same. But then I realized that was just one of these parts of this ID that kept separation happening with people,
Yeah.
keeping myself a little bit above, like in a spiritual sort of, inverted commas story. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's with everything that when there's a separation, it's the same thing. It's the mind just trying another tactic.
Yeah. This one goes pretty deep, right? Because the mind loves to create stories. That's basically how it works, right? So
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
as soon as we buy into any story that has an opinion about how something should be, then that is by definition creating a separation from how it is.
I
Like if
think
it's not, yeah,
Mm.
I just want to jump in. I think that there's something deeper than just when we say creating a separation. That's pretty theoretical. What what could happen is we could recognize that there is identification with a self going on here, and that presumes that there is identification going on over there with that apparent other person. So what we've got is we've got now at a physical level, we've got contraction that expresses the idea of self versus self. So that there's a self over there and there's a self here. Now that's when we have what I forgot what you called it now, but some conflict with an apparent other, right? But when there's no conflict, for me, the experience is frequently, not always, but frequently that the other is a bundle of conditioned reflexes that I'm relating to, and I'm relating to them from a bundle of conditioned reflexes. So there can be no value put on conditioned reflexes. They are just what they are. One can't be superior or better than or less than or anything else. No, none of that can exist. We've just got these things that life has produced.
but isn't that also a bit theoretical, Vince? Because I assume that you're not consciously aware at all times of I am um, responding to a set of conditional reflexes.
At all times, you're right. No, but sometimes
So
yes, sometimes no.
yeah,
And as soon as conflict is there, that gets forgotten and I get defensive.
But the
So I
more,
create a self. Yes, go on.
yes, I think that's it. Like what you both said, you've got two different ways of maybe um, combating or not believing the mind by saying about the conditional reflexes or by this is separation. It's still
Mm.
both the same thing. Is that then you're cutting out that belief that it's really this is reality, which is not reality because it's separation. So yeah, I feel like this is a really important point. I know for myself anyway. It's because it's giving me a tool each time this is set up, each time it happens. That now I can, like when it's happening, instead of just going down the rabbit hole.
Mm.
Like I was using silence, but as well, like silence because I knew it wasn't right because
Yeah, that's one way of breaking that. Yeah.
yeah.
I guess no. So am I doing? I'm doing a bit of selfing here now because I, I, I feel not quite understood about one thing I
Uh-huh.
said, and that is
Yeah.
that that there is a physical reaction to the idea that there's a self that comes along when conflict turns up or when we get defensive. So that self that I'm talking about isn't a theoretical self, it's a physical contraction. That there
Yeah.
is this sensation of a self there that gets generated by the defensive reaction to whatever the mind said was going on. And so that's the key. That's for me. That's the clue. That's the way into seeing the reality that there is no self there or here. Right, by recognizing when I get contracted, when my muscles tighten up and I get defensive, I'm creating a self, and that's my key. That's my recognition factor.
Yeah, okay, I get that. You're creating a self. You're seeing that.
Yes,
Yeah, literally. Whereas,
literally.
whereas before we were just being, just whatever.
Yeah,
What I was doing, I was cleaning the mold, on a ladder, and
yeah.
she was at
So
the
there was
sink.
mold cleaning happening. That was
Yeah,
it. You
mold
you
cleaning,
were
and
the
there was,
mold cleaning. Yeah, there's no
yeah,
self there, just mold
yeah,
cleaning.
yeah, yeah.
But as soon as we feel not understood, guess what? Contraction happens, a self gets created. Theoretically, I mean, it's not, of course, no actual self gets created, but the concept of a self comes into play. And that's that tension that we experience.
What really happens
And
is that,
then as the thoughts start jumping, and the next minute it's like when I
Yeah,
came
we're
in
off
here,
and running, yeah.
and then I say to you, I'm the manager, and all this story. Like I'd created um, a whole lot of things. Just yeah, I did. The thoughts just ran and made that storm of nothing.
and likely that is just an avoidance, as Vince pointed out earlier, of the contraction that you don't want to feel.
Do you think then, if like it sounds all the stuff I'm doing, and I've done a lot of things, and Vince has heard a lot over the last few months of amazing thought manifestations, what's happened, and it's happened for years. It's all been just for avoidance. Oh, avoidance of just
Feelings.
of being of feelings. I don't. Well, I felt like I've felt to the death nearly. Is it feelings, or is it just
Yeah, see, it gets
avoiding?
very,
Just
it's
avoiding,
hard because
avoiding the. Isn't it just where? This is when
it's
I think
complex. Yeah.
it is complex. It's
Yeah.
because even
Like
feeling.
you could say, here's another story that kind of covers it all. Everybody
Yeah,
just wants to feel good.
that's been where I've
Yeah.
come from all the
And all
time.
of
I've
what you
just
see in other people is all
yeah,
about feeling good. And
yeah,
at a certain point, so they can go from a neutral to a positive by telling themselves short stories and so on that make themselves feel good. But that's okay. Mostly you see that's what you mostly see out there in society. But then you get to see the the other direction, the neutral to the negative, right? And that's when people get defensive and so on. And that's all still about wanting to feel good. So most of what you see in other people all the time is them just trying to feel good.
I could also just add to that that I don't think it's only about feeling good, although that is preferred. I think it's about feeling something. So it's avoiding feeling nothing at all, empty.
Mm.
So
I go
even
along with that.
people,
Yeah.
yeah. So even if you can't feel good, you would prefer to feel bad actually, rather than feeling nothing.
The numb, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
The resistance. I'm not sure about that last point that you said, Marius. I can't get that
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I don't know if it's so important to get it at this
Yeah.
stage.
Well, I know that when Vince told me ages ago when I was something about the when I was resisting something with the partner, and he said, and it was something which I thought he suggested, well, don't resist it, and by not resisting it, I which I thought was the most funniest advice in a way, or not advice, but by not resisting it, I fell into absolute uncontrollable laughter and like an emptiness. And because before I was trying to work it out all the time, and yeah, so I feel like I've met emptiness quite a few times, like which is also fullness,
Yeah,
and it just
so I think the word Vince used was probably more correct. Numb. So emptiness,
yeah,
not
yeah,
full, but empty as empty. A negative emptiness, so to speak.
yeah, and that's why I was going. And that's why I feel like, and it's been really good touching into the food thing. And before it could have been what it like at relationships, but the relationships, it was always about in the past, like if it was with the relationship, it was about the pleasure of the relationship. Like the food was giving me pleasure, but it wasn't really an authentic. It was desiring something. It's still going through a desire space, and just to be present with the food was a real eye opener because it showed me presence more, just generally. And I think it's just experiencing more and more of this than just being um, unconscious, sort of the word, like unconscious in avoidance and in stories.
Yeah, I think you can also like we can we can say well, what do I want to say here? Uh, we can still be conscious, so to speak, but in story. So I think even being mindful of staying or giving too much energy to the mind, trying to figure this out like we're
Yeah,
doing now, thinking about it
yeah,
too much,
yeah, yeah,
is also
yeah.
perpetuating that movement of the mind.
Yeah, I agree.
So coming back to just, like you said, the present moment without
Yeah,
um, thinking too much or figuring things out, just anchoring yourself here and
yeah.
giving your mind a break helps slow it down and cultivates, more present moments.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, just touching the steering wheel and feeling my bottom on the chair, and I can feel the vibrating sort of just frequency all through the body, the heart beating. But yeah, I feel here now. I feel
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a big one. And we do, there's a version of numbness where we just get so occupied with what goes on in the mind, like you're driving along and you're not aware that you're driving at all. What you're aware of is some story about what's going to happen when you get to where you're driving.
Yeah,
And that's a version of numbness.
yeah,
That's a version of not being present, of being numb to what is actually going on. Now, it's not to say it's wrong. That's the trick, you know. We've got to be really careful to always say that whatever is going on is fine. It's the value is in being aware of it. That's all. So what you'll find is if you start getting lost in the mind about what's going to happen when you get to where you go, that it stops. As soon as you're aware of it, it stops and you're back into, oh, I'm holding the steering wheel and I'm sitting on the seat and I'm moving through the countryside or whatever. You know, it's like you're just back into the present.
yeah,
You don't have to say do it. You don't have to say don't do the other thing. You just be aware of it and it will happen.
You're always in the present, by the way. It's just, is your attention in thought or is your attention in sensations?
mm, yeah. Thank you, both of you. I feel the heart so big it's about to explode.
So I'm meant to ask at the end of every session, Jayanti, what's one thing you can put your finger on that you got out of today's meeting? And you're allowed to say, I don't know or nothing.
I can hardly think now.
Mm.
Or
You don't need to answer it, you know. It's just a question to stimulate something.
it's on. I can't get it out. It's there, but it's not coming to the forefront.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, leave it. Don't pressure it. Yeah,
But
just see what happens.
definitely, I know I came in with that chaos repeat. Um, uh,
And it doesn't feel chaotic now.
it doesn't feel chaotic. It
Right.
it feels wider.
Love that. Beautiful.
Wider. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again. So I must have been contracted, and I didn't even I don't define myself in all that terminology. For
Hmm.
me, it's a different, but that's what I must have been in when I opened up the Zoom.
Mm. Well, that sounds
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. I'm just enjoying the vibration throughout the
Mm.
body and the stillness. Sort of stillness, but quite vibrational, strong.
Yep. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that.
And yeah. It's just because remember I've had years and years and years of sorting it out in different ways. Um, but it's been the story spinning, and before it was about I was um, for many years looking at feelings and emotions and um, or using the Course in Miracles or using emotional body work, but this feels ah
Yeah.
well present anyway. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the fantasies definitely moved on,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Once
which I'm
we lose that
and
idea that we can do something about it, everything can start shifting on
yeah,
its own. Yeah.
it's like the dream world, because I used to feel many times, especially in the Hare Krishna days, at times I remember like it was a dream,
Mm.
um, and it'd be really dreamy. But now I find even if I go to a Hare Krishna, um, which I usually just will turn up um, and enjoy the dance, but not
Hmm.
the enjoy the dance, enjoy the food, but it's no different now. I'm feeling more present.
Yep.
Yeah, just
Great. Great.
yeah, yeah. No, thank you, Vince and Marius, and I'll just continue turning up. You were saying something about you making different groups or something, because I was finding I was enjoying just to turn up when it was appropriate, but I do want to turn up once a week because
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
of value.
Yeah. All that
There's a
stuff is still in flux. We don't know what's going to happen yet. Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, we'll just go with what's happening.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good one.
okay, thank you.
All right.
Oh, are you carrying on tonight? Are you
Um, yeah, I'm going to
who?
have a bit of a conversation with Marius and then we'll go.
Oh, right. Is it on tonight? Was it only us here?
Yeah, yeah. We had a very small group today. Yeah, you were it. And Anders
Oh,
here, but he's got his camera turned off. So yeah,
who's? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, thank you. Anyway, that's all
no
very
worries.
appropriate. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, have a
All right.
lovely evening, and wherever you are, Marius, it's probably not evening for you, but it is for Vince and I.
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. soon here
Yeah,
in
All right.
Norway.
yeah,
Yeah, just
really.
getting dark here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, lots of love. Thank you very much.
All right.
That's
See
beautiful.
ya. Yeah.
Bye.
See you. Bye.